All right, now we turn to South Dakota in the wake of the Roe decision. The state is one of the few places that had on their books since, I believe, 2005, outlawed abortion, a trigger law, as they call it. In other words, if Roe is overturned, they would trigger that. And they do have an exception to save the life of the mother. Here to explain, a brand new book just out today. You can get it on Amazon.com, Hannity.com, bookstores everywhere. It's Not My First Rodeo, Lessons from the Heartland. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is with us. You know, I asked you a question on radio today, and I want to ask you about your book in a second, about how does the people of South Dakota feel? Because I look at the Supreme Court, and their gun decision was clear. We have an enumerated right in the Constitution, the right to keep and to bear arms. There's no enumerated right for abortion. But our framers had provisions, the 10th Amendment, the 9th Amendment, that allows them to hand it off to the states, where then the people will elect the officials that will make that decision based on their state values. Are these the values of the people of South Dakota? I would assume they are.
Yeah, I think the people of South Dakota really appreciate the fact that the Supreme Court did its job here. You know, years ago they made a wrong decision, and when they put this decision back last week, what they did was put this authority at the state level, which is where it should have always been. So we'll have this conversation in South Dakota. We have a bill that passed back in 2005 that said if Roe was ever overturned, that it would become illegal in our state to have an abortion unless it was to save the life of a mother. You know, there have been different ballot initiatives over the years. I'm sure it'll continue to be a debate, but I'm proud of the fact that my state stands for life. They recognize that every single life is precious, and that this is something that's very clear that the people will have a debate with. Now, I know the public out there doesn't necessarily know the latest science and technology and developments that we now know in the last 10 years that we didn't know previously about what happens to a baby in the womb, what they feel, the pain they feel. All of that is an education process that so many of us need to continue to talk about. And it's important that we talk about supporting mothers, that what we have for programs to come alongside people in this unplanned pregnancy or a crisis situation that's facing them. How do they get health care? How do they get people to walk alongside them? Financially, what do they need? And how do we connect them to adoptive families if that's the route that they choose?
Yeah, we have states like New York now actively promoting the idea that, oh, if you can't get a late-term abortion in your state, come to our state. I think in South Dakota, you promote Mount Rushmore.
We do. It's shocking to me that the governor of New York wants that to be the legacy of her state. Ending life. Come here if you want to end a life. We do know that there's consequences for leadership, but boy, I'd much rather be proud of my state for standing for freedom, for liberty, for honoring great leaders who led our country in times of crisis. So, you know, it's important to us that we continue to talk to people about this issue because it is something that is so important, so timely. And frankly, we've seen the Supreme Court make some really big decisions this last week that really upheld our Constitution. I'm so grateful for them for doing their job.
Let me ask you, I learned a lot about you as I read Not My First Rodeo. I didn't know you lost your father at a young age. I didn't know that you decided to stay and work on the ranch. All of the life lessons you learned doing so. I think there's a big part of your life that a lot of people don't know about. Tell us why those values, how did they shape you into the person you are today?
I think the way I was raised is why I'm who I am today. You know, my dad was a cowboy. He was tough. He was actually one of my best friends. My whole life's plan was to grow up, go to school, and come back and run businesses with him, farm and ranch, and live the rest of my life there with our family together. That dramatically changed when he was killed. It threw us into a situation where we were hit with death taxes. All of a sudden, we have this tragedy. He's killed at the age of 49. And then we have a federal law threatening taking away our entire family business. So that's what got me involved in government and politics. And it was very trying. It took me 10 years to pay off those taxes. And we almost lost our family business. Went through other challenges over the years. But the way I grew up, the family that I had, our faith, created the person that I am today. And that's how I make my decisions, is from my value system. And I'm hopeful that people will not just know me for COVID. Now they'll recognize that that COVID wasn't my first rodeo. I went through a lot of other challenges in my life, but I'm proud of the fact that it made me strong, it made me a good decision maker, and that it made me want to serve people.
Your name gets mentioned a lot when it comes to potentially being a president or a vice president one day. You give it any thought?
Well, people ask so often that you have to give it a thought, but I'm hoping that people will re-elect me to be the governor of South Dakota. It's not in my plans. I truly just want to continue to focus on our state. We've got some unique opportunities. We've got the best economy in the country. We've got the fastest growing incomes in our state. People are thriving, doing well. They're happier than in other states. I think that's a testimony to the rest of the country of what really is possible when you do conservative policies, that it really does benefit our families. So the fact that we are an example right now to the rest of the country and a little bit of hope, that's what we desperately need. So I'll continue to do what I can to make sure we keep this country as great as I had the chance to grow up in. I want my granddaughter to have the same opportunity.
Incredible life story. Not My First Rodeo, bookstores everywhere, Amazon.com. Governor, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it as always. Coming up, hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.